Ernie Semersky is a relative newcomer to thoroughbred racing. The 64-year-old former futures trader and car dealer bought his first horse just 3 years ago, about the time we started doing this show. You'll often hear him say, and he's not exactly a wallflower, things like, "We're just having so much fun, and these horses are like kids." You know what that means? Well, think about it. If you're watching a documentary on, say, the Oprah Winfrey Network, what's the number one virtue in their storytelling? Overcoming your demons? Coming to grips with your feelings, maybe? Now, it's not like we don't address those things in the stories we tell here at ESPN. Of course we tell stories like that. But what do you think the number one virtue is in our storytelling? Winning. And make no mistake, Ernie Semersky dearly likes to win.
And Conquest Harmony has taken the lead. Conquest Harmony by a neck to win the Natama.
Conquest Eclipse is holding them all off right now. Conquest Eclipse, and Conquest Eclipse would not be denied.
Conquest Typhoon to take the lead. Conquest Typhoon, Samuel D. Champlain Ethical Funds. Conquest Typhoon blew them away to win the Summer Stakes.
That's a lot of conquests. Well, there are probably several in our listening audience who've also had a lot of conquests. And there's plenty more where these three came from. Of building his conquest stable in such a short span of time, Ernie Semersky says, "I want people, when they come up against a conquest horse, I don't want them to think, 'Can I win?' I want them to think, 'Am I going to lose by 20?'" Real genteel, huh? And with that, we welcome the mercurial co-owner of Conquest Stable, Ernie Semersky, to In the Gate. You went from 0 to 60, horses that is, in about 3 years. You've spent somewhere north of $13 million for horses in your first 2 years. What's the overall strategy for your operation?
Well, we might be up to 110. The overall strategy is to create stallions and broodmares and hook up with the great stallion ranches and have the same thing. You know, we'd like to brand Conquest stallions and do home breeding. That's why we bought so many horses at a certain price level. You know, you have to have the depth of bloodline. You know, I did an awful lot of research before I did anything. We've got an incredible trainer, an incredible team. So my end game is to be the best stable we can be, produce the best product we can be, and produce consistency.
More than a dozen of your horses are 2-year-olds, including Typhoon in the 2-year-old turf race and Harlanate in the 2-year-old filly turf race. Why base your operation on such unproven talent?
Well, you know, we think that we put enough effort into the buy and have enough talent around us that, you know, we've got 50 yearlings that we think are much better than this crop of 2-year-olds. And we're hoping the 2-year-olds will carry forward the same talent they've had at 2 as 3. You have to remember that we have a lot of 2-year-olds right now that we haven't even run yet that are big guns. And, you know, we run them as they show that they're ready, and Mark decides that. And, you know, the 2-year-old investments as yearlings and as 2-year-olds in training gave us a jump start to get started. And I was very confident in Mark's ability to judge a horse. And, you know, I like a horse that, you know, likes to be an alpha male. You know, one of our best horses almost killed me, you know, which I loved. And, you know, I mean, he's really something. I think that we wanted to create a group of 2-year-olds that had a future, strong future in racing, and hopefully would perpetuate that as broodmares and stallions. Within the next year or two, we'll be starting on a training center in Ocala, and I've got my eyes on a couple of places, and I have some ideas on what I'd like to do that is a little more high tech. You know, I've been a very firm believer in aquatics for a long time, and got lasers. We'll do vibrator plates. I'm researching the hyperbaric chambers. I'm not sure about that.
You've spent most of your life in the Chicago area, yet you chose Mark Casse, who spends much of his year in Canada, as your trainer. What was the thought behind Mark Casse?
The options were basically there was no trainers from Chicago that we had as an option. Mark and I just clicked immediately. I am in a business in futures trading. When you put people on the floor of an exchange, they can wipe you out if they don't have integrity and morals. And I know every game you can play in any business, and I'm real high on loyalty and real high on integrity, and it seemed like Mark had them all. Mark treats every client, if they got 3 horses or 100 horses, I watched him very closely, and he gives his heart to everybody. I thought that he and I meshed on the way we felt about things, and I think he's proving, certainly with our 2-year-olds, for a while at least, he was the top 2-year-old trainer in the world.
Ernie Semersky of Conquest Stable joins us here on In the Gate. When you see him in person, he sometimes looks like he's out for world conquest. Self-described Type A who dresses sometimes like Jack Nicholson's Joker character from the 1989 film Batman. You've said that your childhood home in southern Illinois had no shower. You had to take sponge baths. How much of who you are now comes from that upbringing?
I'm a lot cleaner. I can tell you that. When we did our house, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and there's just not money. So when we were down there, when you're in East St. Louis, it was a rough deal. But I didn't know. My joke with Dory is, when we built one of our houses, she designed it. She put in a 13-head shower stall that would blow a truck out of the water, because she knows, when I go to a hotel, the first thing I do is check the water pressure. I mean, so some things stick with you forever. And always in the back of their mind, no matter how much money they have, if you come from that background, you always realize you can go back to that point.
Well, you have said, I can't do anything halfway. I'd rather not do anything small scale. So is your goal in racing to build an operation that makes money, or is your goal to win?
Listen, I don't do anything to lose money. I never have done a tax shelter or anything else in the world. I think there's an opportunity to front load an investment like horse racing. I've actually won much more than I anticipated this quickly, thanks to Mark and the teams and the horses we picked and the abilities and the placements. I think the end goal is to make money for sure, and why shouldn't you be able to? Why on my investment right now is probably 23 or 4 mil, whatever, in that ballpark. So why shouldn't that industry be able to be financially profitable if you can breed stallions and breed brood mares and get into the business and perpetuate winning racehorses? I think, Sheriff Tapit just sold for $2.8 million. Puts him at $140 million. I'm not saying we're going to produce a Tapit, but, I see what stallions sell for, and it actually makes sense at all levels for me. It's not a big risk in the scope of what I do. And it's got some very tangible assets, and we're fortunate enough to, watch some of our horses run. I think you'll see, that they're pretty good for, a fresh guy on the block, and we're really proud of them.
Our thanks to Ernie Semersky of Conquest Stable.